Hello and welcome to Hanratty on Karate. So I left the last podcast where we just finished the 1995 WSKA Championships in Sunderland, England, which was excellently organised by the KUGB, particularly the Sunderland group at the Crowtree Leisure Centre. It was a fantastic after party and the competition was everything it promised. We did quite well. Didn't carry a lot of medals away. I don't know if we did or not. But if you ever want to check the results for WSKA, I was collecting them all over the years from when I first put the first one on in 91. And they're all on the WSKA page, wskakarate.org. So if you want to check any of those results, you can see who won in each division in each year from the very first competition on. I did keep pretty good records at that time, and they're all there. So the next competition we had, I talked Ray Dalkey into putting this competition on in Riverside, California at UCR. And Ray did a fantastic job. I went down a few times, help him out with a little bit of organization and PR work, and talking to the local dignitaries and such, and getting whatever sponsorship we could, because at that time, and even when I hosted the first one, we didn't get any help at all from WSKA. There was no money. You just paid for it and hoped that you maybe got enough of a crowd to cover your expenses, which it didn't, but I wouldn't have changed. It's like everything I do in karate. I certainly don't do it for the money. I just do it for the love of karate. So it was a good experience. It was a good competition, and everybody appreciated what we did, and that was important. So it was the same with Ray. He put on a fantastic competition and lots of little aside things that helped promote it, like a car show and a really excellent bonsai show. So most of the countries showed up, except for England, who had absolute tragedy in their training. During training about 3-4 weeks before the competition, one of their team members passed away in the triangle at squad training. And this so upset the rest of the team that they didn't feel they could take part in the competition out of sympathy and out of respect for the member who'd passed. It was an unfortunate act and just one of those things. Unfortunately, a young guy cut down in his prime. I believe he had a heart condition. It's common. I've heard of it before. We've all heard of athletes just suddenly being cut down in their prime. That's just what life's all about, or death's all about. We're all getting there eventually, but it's unfortunate when you go that early. Anyway, the England team didn't come out of respect. However, Anoida Sensei did show up, and we had a really good reunion. It was a great competition. As I say, the results are there. What impressed me in Riverside was the German team, big guys, Anders and Fanzer, and of course some of the really good katas, Paul Key, Thomas Hartle. There was some excellent competition there. We were fortunate to take our silver in the individual cadet division with Ben Shuk from our BC club in Revelstoke. And I think we took also a bronze in the team kata. So we did quite well. In Canada, we don't have a big karate population. And being such a massive country, it's quite geographically challenging to get people together to train. In fact, the only time I did see the whole team, and I was coaching as well as doing the vice president duties, the only time I got the whole team together was actually pre-training, and I managed to get a few days in Ray Dalkey's excellent dojo downtown Riverside, and I could work them all and have a look what they'd been training. The kata team had come from BC, and we left them all together. They were all very good, and it was Jordan Scales and Richard. Anyway, they were really good lads, and we had quite a contingent from Calgary as well. So it was a decent team. I thought we did well. I thought we had a good chance. So everybody had a good time. As usual, the host nation put on a great after party at the hotel, and afterwards chatting to Hanratty Sensei, and he said he really fancied a game of golf, and so off we went down to Palm Springs, Canyon Creek Golf Club. And you play golf in Palm Springs, September isn't the month to go. It's really, really hot. Most of the golf courses are closed. But we did find one that was opening early, and we got in there. It was about 38 degrees centigrade, though. By the time we got round, we were soaking with sweat, absolutely soaked. Hanratty Sensei hadn't brought a change of clothes with him, but I had my suitcase in the car because we were going to be just staying overnight in Palm Springs and then going down to LAX for the flight back to Calgary. So he borrowed a golf shirt off me, which I never did get back, by the way. But anyway, we had a great time that day. I had a good round of golf. I must have lost about 10, 12 pounds in weight with the sweat, but it was worth it. And then we went shopping in Palm Springs, where Hanratty Sensei was looking for a gift for his wife. I believe he did find one, but I remember him going into Victoria's Secret in Palm Springs and looking at the lingerie there, quite unusual at that time. Anyway, that was the 97 tournament, and we were back in Calgary and back to normal training and normal competition mode with the regionals and the nationals around the Western Canada and over in the Eastern Canada. I believe the nationals were that year. Also, I'd been running a mountain camp since the early 80s when I first started teaching in Calgary. And every year I'd ran a camp up by Johnson's Canyon, which is in the Rocky Mountains just outside Banff. This was pure training. We trained hard. It really built the spirit up. Now, the camp that we had was in Johnson's Meadows, which is about 4 kilometers from Johnson's Canyon. And we're about 7,000 feet elevation, so maybe 2,000 to 3,000 meters elevation. So it's quite a strain for you to get a lot of oxygen in. But I've found that doing elevation training really, really helped, especially when we go somewhere like Riverside in California, which is practically sea level. You just find that your tank goes on forever. You don't seem to run out of stamina, and you can outrun most people. One good example of this was when I took the team down to Nishiyama's camp one year, and my old friend Vern Vaden, who's still training, and good on him, Vern, he's in close to 90 now, but he just doesn't stop. Vern was leading the American team on a run, who were running ahead of the rest of the pack that were taking the camp. So I took the Canadian team, and we were just full of oxygen at sea level because we've been doing this elevation training. So we took off chasing the American team. Our boys were so fit, we went round them, circled them again, took off ahead of them, and then came back to where we were training down by the La Jolla Bay there, where we did all our training on the beach, early morning training. So, elevation training really does give you a lot more oxygen to work with, and that's basically the fuel that you need, apart from your own body nutrition and stuff like that. So those mountain camps really worked. And as I say, it was pretty hard. You weren't allowed to take any vehicles in, so it was none of this trailers or motorhomes or caravans or whatever. You had to bring your own tent in, sleeping bags, and you were allowed to use a communal cooking shed that they had with a ice-cold water pump out that came out of a well, which was basically glacier-fed, so there was no hot water. And we used to go in on a Friday night. We'd train all day Saturday, and we'd train most of the day Sunday. And then we'd go into Banff after the training. And Banff has hot springs, thermal hot springs. They've been there for years. And I couldn't tell you how good it felt to sit in those hot springs after 3 days in the dirt, in the mountains, not hardly getting washed. Geese looking like they'd grown mold or moss on them. But it really did wonders for the spirit and the character. And I got a whole bunch of pictures. I'm just looking at them. I probably post them for everybody, showing these camps. And at one point we actually brought in Sensei Sakurai from Vancouver, and he did a grading. Now, we trained in any kind of weather, and I usually ran these camps in July, which was, you'd think would be a safe bet for the Rockies, but twice in the years that I did it, we woke up with snow on the tents. The time that Sakurai did his grading there in the meadow we trained on, it just poured down. He's standing, one of the guys, I've got him holding a golf umbrella over him while he's marking the grading sheet, and kids are grading and there's water sloshing around. You had to be there, but it's all part of the fun. It's all part of the life. It's part of the character. It builds friendships. It builds everything. It's something you're going to look back on. Not everybody's going to get there. Not everybody's going to do that. It was just one of those things. Other time when we'd moved the camp down to one of the lakes there, Chujack Lake, we ended up all going in the lake at the end of the camp, because that day was nice and warm. We were all in the lake swimming, come back ashore. Actually, we'd finished the session, and what I did was I had them all moving forward, kicking and punching, and kept them going right through past the edge of the shore and into the lake. And then, surprise, surprise, a police car comes howling along the track road, lights flashing and everything, and they told us all to get out the lake. And I guess some fishermen had found a couple of rifles and a bundle of dynamite in the lake. And so the cops showed up and threw us all out the lake. Anyway, that was just one of the things that went on there. So 97, as I say, was great WSKA. So the next one was in Russia in 1999. And as I say, you can get the results from the WSKA page. I sent the results off to the secretary and he posted them a number of years ago. So 99 was in Russia. We didn't do very well there. We didn't have a great big team, and it was rather an expensive trip. Russians charged us for the visa to get into Russia as well. But we saw the Polish team starting to come to the fore. They really started to move up, and they had some great competitors, particularly in the women's team, both Kumite and Kata. Some very memorable competitors there. One name comes to mind. I think her name was Marta. She was really good. And the other thing about the Polish ladies team was they were all absolutely stunning. So, they won on all fronts. So that was the 1999 one. WSKA was starting to get a little established, but it wasn't growing an awful lot at this time. We couldn't figure out what we were going to do about it, but everybody was trying to bring more members in. There seemed to be a reluctance on Japan's part to recognize WSKA, and of course we were always in a fight with WKF, or WUKO as it was at that time, about the different styles, because we weren't using their rules at all anyway. We were doing traditional karate rules, which all JKA rules, but JKA had always had the Shodo Cup, and they wanted to stick with that. So the All Japan tournament, And you can't blame them. I mean, that was it. But the Japanese, I think at that time, they felt that they owned karate. I know early on, especially when Japanese were refereeing, you couldn't buy a point. And it got to the point where we're actually demanding that they start putting in some European refs at least. And then it started to even out a bit, and you start to see some really fantastic fights. A couple that come to mind as Georgie Best fighting Kagawa, Frank Brennan fighting Naka. There was some amazing fights. Not to say that JKA didn't put on good fights within their own groups, There was some fantastic JKA fighters right from the get-go. One of my favourites is Kokobon. I thought he was just brilliant, just explosive. Imamura, all these guys, it was just unbelievable the way they trained. But they were pretty much all professional karate men. They were doing it for a living, but also, for a lifestyle as well. So I think the Japanese blend that a little better than we do. If you're a professional karate instructor in the West, in Europe, England, or even in the States and Canada, it's very hard to make a living at it, unless you're teaching just thousands of people and you're not teaching them properly, then you're just giving them a coating. I think if you're going to make it a lifestyle, it's very hard to make money, because if you're going to make it a lifestyle, you have to be true and you have to teach exactly the way it should be done. And it's very hard for people to accept that, because it's constant corrections. And I think in the West, people tend to look on corrections as criticism, and they look on criticism as failure. And that's not the way you do it at all. You should be thankful that the person who's giving you these criticisms is taking the time to correct you and show you the way, that they've obviously been there before, so it's worthwhile listening to them. You're always going to get charlatans and MacDojos, as they're called, but, ignoring them. The majority of people have been around 30, 40, 50 years like I have. They're probably not going to make money at it, but they're honestly doing an honest job at showing you the way it should be done, the way they feel it should be done, the way it's been taught to them. It's a hard way to go, but that's just the way it is. So, as I say, we've done the WSKA competitions every year, and in between, we're doing camps, we do competitions, and we do just everyday training. Now, everyday training can get boring at times. People have often come to me and said, I've reached a plateau. I don't think I can go any further. I'm not getting any better. It's hard to see yourself getting better. What you have to do is trust to your instructor and let him tell you when you're getting better. Now, a lot of instructors, what they'll do is they'll try to give you some variation or do something different, when what you should be doing is practicing what's holding you back. And usually what's holding you back is a lack of good basics. If you've got your basics right, you're always going to move ahead, because you're just going to get better at them. It's like practicing anything. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. The more familiar you're going to be with the technique, the more efficient you're going to make it. The more power and the more coordination. The neural pathways are going to get easier. The messages are going to just zip along the neural pathways to the muscles required, and you're going to get it. Now, it may not feel to you like you're doing it because you think you're doing the same thing. You are, but what you're doing is you're instilling that muscle memory every single time you do it. You may not think you're going to get ahead, but you are. It's like golfers, and I play golf, not well, unfortunately, but I play. I enjoy it. I think it's therapeutic. But if you look at how many times the likes of, say, Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods swing a club, they don't get bored with it, right? They're looking for efficiency of movement, increased speed, increased accuracy. Everything that we look for in a technique, they're looking for in their technique. And theirs is a lot simpler. Basically, you just swing a club and hit a ball, right? Now, the results differ, but the basic technique is swing the club, hit the ball, no matter what club they're using. So they're trying to achieve consistency and accuracy every time they do it. And that's what you should be looking for: consistency and accuracy and efficiency and power. Now, it's hard to get all of them. When you hit a golf ball, you see it go up in the air, you see where it's going, you see how far it's gone. There's a little bit of instant feedback. You have to trust your instructor that he's giving you the correct feedback. It's hard to get feedback when you're punching fresh air. However, this is why I like working on the Makawara, and I have my students use bag work. In fact, I had them working on the bag yesterday in the club, just to show a few of them, especially the young ones, why you should hold your fist in a certain position, why you should hit only with the two first knuckles, why you keep your wrist straight and in line with your elbow and pull your shoulder down with your lats into your hip. Everything that you do in it, like a golf swing, turning your hips, keeping your shoulders level, keeping your arm on the ball. It's all just a question of technique. And they've probably been told the same thing a million times. It's like my perennial saying is, bend your knee. Because I like the long stances and I like your knee ahead of your ankle. Otherwise, everything starts to push rather than pull. And human body works on muscle contraction, which is pulling, So your knee has to be ahead of your ankle so that you can pull. Okay, if not, you're pushing. And then once you go past that point, you start to pull. So it's just repetition, and it's hard not to get discouraged. We've all been there, believe me. If you've got an instructor and you're telling him that you think you've reached a plateau and you're not getting any better and everything else, he's been there. He's done that. What he might do is relate to you how he got past that and give you a few little tips, and hopefully they'll relate to what you're feeling. If not, then, maybe he needs to motivate you in some way to keep going. But the best motivation should be yourself, how you feel about what you're doing, and how you should not get bored. Maybe use the mirrors in the dojo, or hit a makawara, punch a bag. Start to get some feedback, okay? Maybe feedback from your people in the dojo, your fellow students. If you're sparring, you should always try your absolute best, because karate, my good friend, psychologist, Edmund Otis, who done karate for probably as long as I have, if not longer, his theory is if you're going to use karate, it has to be the best technique you have. It has to be your absolute best. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Now, the only way you know what your best is keep trying and pushing your technique until you get it better, until you get it so you feel so comfortable with it, you absolutely know it will work. So being your best becomes a habit, right? And it's like when you're working with a partner, you don't go half speed. You don't go soft. You don't go off target. You don't go off distance. You try and push your partner. If I'm in front of you and if we're just doing a very simple one-step drill and I'm attacking you, you can bet your life I am practicing to hit you. All right? We both know what we're doing, and if I can get in every time, I will. And example of this is Frank Brennan. We used to do Gohon Kumite, which is very simple. And people say, oh, it's not very practical. It's practical. If you can hit somebody doing 5-step sparring, 5-step kumite, then you can hit them in almost any situation, because he knows exactly what you're doing. You have to cover a lot more distance in a stepping punch than you would in normal confrontational scenarios. Okay, so he knows that you're going to come in. You have to cover all of that distance. He knows the target because you've been told he's going to come Jordan 5 times. You're going to block, 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 counter, right? You don't want to be out of distance when you're countering, and you don't want to get hit on the way. But you get somebody like Frank Brennan coming at you, and he's practicing his attack. He expects you to practice your defense. Your defense better work. Otherwise, all you're going to do is practice hitting you. This is why you should always try your best, and then everybody will benefit from it. They'll benefit from you trying your best. I often see kids, and they're way short on the distance, or, oh, I didn't want to hit them, so they're aiming to the side. It's pathetic. You know? This kid's going to go home thinking he can punch, and the other guy's going to go home thinking he can block. Neither of them are right. And it's up to you as an instructor to get a hold of that and motivate them to try their best so that when they absolutely need it, they will be at their best. They know what their best is. Of course, you're never going to reach your best, but there you go. You can keep trying. And that's where you're going to show your improvements. That's where you're going to get off that little plateau that's getting you down, or you're getting bored, or it's too repetitive. Just get it right. Keep concentrating on getting it right. When you look at the Dojo Kun, the first precept in Dojo Kun, Jinkaku Kansei Nitsurumoro Koto, or seeking perfection of character, you should also be looking to seek perfection of technique. This runs hand in hand with character development. Technique development, character development, they go hand in hand. You be the best that you can be, and it'll work out. It'll work out for your mind, it'll work out for your body. Anyway, next time I'm going to tell you what happened to us in 2001, which was a really interesting year. All right? So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you all again. Take care.